Okay, let's jump right in. It's 1915. The First World War is tearing the world apart, and the French philosopher Henri Bergson gives this incredible speech. Now, he wasn't interested in talking about politics or borders in the usual way. No. He saw the entire war as something way bigger, something almost cosmic. And this is our look into his argument, that this was a war between life itself and the cold mechanical force of matter.
Right off the bat, Bergson comes out swinging. He completely rejects this old idea that philosophers should be detached and just understand things without getting angry. He basically says, look, when you're staring a crime in the face, understanding it should make you more indignant, not less. And that just sets the stage perfectly. You know right away, this isn't going to be some dry academic lecture. This is a passionate, all-in philosophical throwdown over the soul of the conflict.
So what is this deeper meaning he's talking about? Well, for Bergson, the trenches, the machine guns, all of it, that was just the surface. That was a physical symptom of a much, much deeper struggle. He saw the Great War as a battle for the very future of humanity, a clash between two fundamental forces of the universe.
And here they are, the two big players in his cosmic drama. On one side, you have life. Think of it as everything creative, spontaneous, diverse. The moral force. It's organic, messy, and it's always renewing itself. And on the other side, you've got matter. This is the mechanical, the uniform, the artificial. It's the brute force of a machine that can only do what it's built to do, over and over again.
Okay, so if one side is this mechanical force, where did it come from? Well, to understand that, Bergson says we have to look at the history of Prussia. He believed that Prussia was the perfect real-world example of this principle of matter, and that its cold, rigid spirit eventually took over all of Germany.
Bergson basically lays out a fork-in-the-road moment for Germany. He saw two possible Germanys. One was the Germany of poets, artists, and thinkers, a culture that was growing naturally, organically toward unity. That was the life path. The other was the Prussia of military conquest and rigid bureaucracy, an artificial state built like a machine. And in his view, Germany chose the machine.
I mean, listen to how Bergson describes it. It's not just a political critique. You can feel it. He paints this picture of a society where everything is automated. The gestures of kings, the marching of soldiers, it's all clockwork. It's a state with all the gears turning perfectly, but with no soul. And then he lays out what he sees as Bismarck's coldly calculated four-step plan to build this machine. This wasn't a popular uprising. This was an engineering project. It was about creating unity, not through shared ideals, but through force and manufactured hate. And that last step, step 4, that's the real kicker. By creating a forever enemy in France, Bismarck guaranteed that this new German empire would have to stay a militarized machine, permanently.
So you've got this Prussian military machine, right? But it didn't just stay the same. According to Bergson, it got a terrifying upgrade. It fused with the incredible power of 19th century industrialism. It's like the clockwork state got plugged directly into the factory assembly line.
And the result of this merger was, well, it was a whole new philosophy. Germany became so successful, so powerful, that it started to worship its own strength. Brute force wasn't just a means to an end anymore. It became a virtue, a divine sign of greatness. This material power, Bergson says, became Germany's new god.
And this quote just cuts right to the heart of it. If force is God, then right is just whatever the strongest person says it is. A treaty? An international agreement? A promise? Totally meaningless. It's just a temporary record of who's on top. Just a scrap of paper you can tear up whenever you're strong enough to do so.
So what does that logic lead to? Bergson calls it scientific barbarism, and it is absolutely chilling. War is no longer a contest of armies. It's an industrial process. The goal isn't just to win, it's to completely annihilate the enemy's ability to ever compete with you again. And that last point is so crucial. The war has to be a quick knockout punch, because a philosophy based on brute strength has no deep well of moral energy. It's a force that burns bright and burns out fast.
But just when this mechanical monster seems unstoppable, something else wakes up to fight it. And this is the other side of Bergson's great equation, the power of life. It's not a physical force, but a moral one, and he believed it was being channeled by the nations standing up to the German machine.
First, let's get a handle on the machine's power. Bergson calls it the force which wastes. Think of it like a battery or a tank of gas. It starts out with a huge charge, a ton of power, but every single thing it does drains that power. It's a closed system, and once the fuel is gone, it's gone for good.
Now, compare that to its opposite, the force which does not waste. He says the Allies' energy comes from a totally different source, not from pride in what they have, but from an ideal of what they believe is right. And because ideals like justice and freedom are timeless, well, the energy you get from them is basically infinite. It just keeps regenerating.
And here is the absolute core of his idea, the part that's kind of mind-blowing. Bergson is saying he saw proof that this abstract moral force could create real, concrete material power. The idea of justice, the ideal of honor. These things could literally summon armies out of the ground and unite millions of people overnight. Spirit could actually create matter.
So once you see the war through this lens, this finite machine grinding against an infinite spirit, the outcome starts to look kind of inevitable, doesn't it? And that's exactly what Bergson thought. Back in 1915, when nobody knew how this would end, he made a pretty confident prediction, based not on troop movements, but on metaphysics.
This table just lays it all out so clearly. On one side, you've got mechanism, or matter. It's a force on the surface, it's manufactured, and it uses itself up. On the other side, you've got life. It's a force from the depths, it's creative, and it does not use itself up. For Bergson, this was the real matchup in World War I.
And so, this was his conclusion. The German war machine, no matter how powerful or terrifying it was still just a machine. It could break, it could run out of fuel, it could wear down, but the force of life, because it was rooted in an ideal that never dies, could endure anything. It could suffer and bleed and keep regenerating. The machine was always, eventually, going to break against it.
He wraps everything up with this really poignant thought. The victory wouldn't be easy. It would take an incredible amount of suffering and unimaginable sacrifice. But for Bergson, that terrible price was what humanity had to pay to save itself from a moral death, the death of becoming that perfectly efficient but totally soulless machine.
And that leaves us right here, today, with a question that feels just as urgent now as it did in 1915. In our world of AI, drones, and cyber warfare, where we're always building bigger, better, faster machines, Bergson's analysis just forces us to ask, what is the true source of strength? Is it in the perfection of our technology, or is it in the vitality of our ideals?